Select the landscape, go to this function here called Particles. Hit Particles, plus. Now here you can give it a name if you'd like to, which comes in handy later on if you're doing more complex scenes with lots of different particle systems. So I'm going to call this one Trees. I'm going to choose this option called Hair. You can see suddenly all these hairs have popped up. That is where, if we choose, we can have a tree popping up in every one of those locations because it's set to 1000. That's way too many. Let's see what it does with 50. So we're going to have 50 trees scattered throughout this scene. We can just leave those settings as they are for now. We might come back and make some changes. Go down to where it says render. So now we can change, instead of rendering the particles as hairs, we can change this render as to object. Okay, we scroll down a little bit more. It says, well, what object do you want to render those particles as? Click on that dropper tool and select your tree. Okay, and then all of a sudden we have these trees appearing all over the scene. Also choose this option beneath that called object rotation. We want to be able to move those trees so that they stand up. So this is a little bit of a quirk in Blender. Sometimes when you're applying particles, it doesn't orient them the proper way. So what you can do is just change the rotation of your original object. So in this case, I'm going to, looks like if I bend it this way, all those trees will stand up straight. So if I go to object properties over here with that original tree selected, I can just change, look, I guessed it. Um, if I type in 90 there, it should bend that tree the exact standing up straight. Okay, so there we are. There's some trees scattered over the landscape, and we can see we've got a bit of an issue because some of the trees are in the water. There's a few ways that we can get rid of those trees in the water and also add more trees to the landscape. So one of those ways is to go to what's called particle edit mode. So down here, I've got to select the landscape, sorry. Select the landscape and particle edit. When we click on that, we can see those trees turn back into just simple hair particles. So what we can do is choose this cut tool and we can cut any particles that are in the stream there. You can change the shape of that circle. If I go up here and just make it a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to go through and click on any of those trees that are growing out of the water to get rid of them. Even ones that are right next to the water's edge, I might get rid of those. You might have some that are growing at a crazy angle on the side of the hills. You might want to get rid of some of those too. So rotate through your scene, make sure you get them all. Okay, so I can see there's a few bare patches where I think I could have a few more trees. So I'm going to go add, and you can change this count. You can add 10 at a time, or why don't we just add one? I'm going to go click there and add a few more trees to the scene just to make it look a little bit more foresty. You might have a little clump of trees at some point, make them all close together. There we are. And we can go back to object mode. And there's all of our trees. Okay, I think it looks kind of nice that it's a bit cartoonish, that they're all at these slightly crazy angles. We can see there's a couple of trees that are maybe a bit too close together. You can go back to particle edit mode and change that if you'd like. So I'm going to go to now back to the particle setting, and instead of all the trees being the same size, here where it says render, you can change scale randomness. And if you move this value, some of the trees will be smaller, some of them are a little bit larger. You can fiddle it around with the scale of the original tree as well to get something that looks good to you. Okay. So I can see, I think there's a few spare spots there where I can add a few more trees in. I'm going to go back to particle edit and add a couple more in some of those empty spaces. Okay, and that's looking a little bit more filled out. Make sure you continue to save your work. Control S is a shortcut. Okay, so there's our trees distributed throughout the scene.